field, so to speak. Look at that perfectly well executed sailor's knot in the background over his left shoulder. I used to know all those different knots back when I learned sailing like 100 years ago, and now I
Yeah.
forgot. Well, that is such a look at that one just right over your left shoulder there.
Yeah.
Like
No, I know.
that's I don't even know what that's called, but that is like legend. That's a legendary knot. That's amazing.
Yeah, these guys are so good. I know. I used to be able to do everything, and I think I could still do most of it, but like it's hard if you don't stay in practice for sure.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
so last night I did okay. I got like fifth or so in the 250 in the par four with
oh,
the
that's nice.
yeah. Well, you know what? I was really super heavy on that Harrison dude who was just freaking legendary last night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean he pitched. He's the one that got the leash, and as opposed to Wu. You know, Wu
right. Went
that
the
was
other
it.
way.
And Harrison, you know, he carried that strikeout rate across 6 innings. That's how you end up with 35 points out of a 6K dude. And that opened up all the Atlanta, which kind of got there in the middle to late innings or something like that. And then also a kind of a shout out to C Davis who forced me into giving a sports bet out yesterday towards the end of the stream. And I took one off slate. I took an off slate pick. We took the under in the Tigers Yankees game, and that was was without a sweat. I think it was
Beautiful.
4-1. So that was good. And aside from that, I mean, I think did it make up for the loss? Yeah, I think I might have made a little bit of money because of the approach yesterday. And what's interesting, I think today, and by the way, in the big buy-in, I did eventually go with your idea. I actually did go with I had San Diego, Seattle in my in the big buy-in.
Unfortunate, didn't work out though.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out. But yeah, I have a feeling, and I'll share my screen. But doesn't today feel similar as far as the slate goes? I mean, you have Atlanta
Yes.
and a couple of super duper cheapo pitchers that are going to get jammed in. I think. We'll see how it works out. Let me.
Well, they're going to have to protect Acuna better a little bit. Did you see that yesterday? That was the craziest thing.
Nuts.
I don't know if I've ever seen two different people come in and try to hug somebody like that. It was really weird.
Let me share my screen here.
Okay, let's do it.
And we'll see what's going on here. All right, so you want to do game by game?
Yeah, let's go game by game.
So we'll again, I usually just like to check the weather. Is there anything listed as like orange at least? I didn't even check.
Right now, there's nothing nothing looks unplayable at all.
Okay.
Yeah. There's again, it could change a little later, and this would probably be one of the games where there's at least potential for that to happen.
So as I mentioned, so the way I kind of look at the slate is that there's like 2 or 3 like really chalky options pitching wise, and there are a couple of pivots that you can make, and it's pretty similar, I think, with the hitting. And so we're going to start straight off with the Baltimore game where you have one of the pivots. Okay, so I do think Kramer is kind of a lower owned pivot off of some of the more popular plays today. He's not going to project quite as well as the others, but you know he's going to be he's going to be a fraction of the ownership. So I think that again, listen, we're not shy about playing him anyway, and we're not shy about playing other pitchers against the White Sox. So I think this is pretty reasonable lower owned way to play. I am not getting to Schulten's today, and I was thinking I would get to Baltimore as maybe a one of those pivot stats, but I'm not. But I'm willing to listen. So right now I have Kramer as a very decent pivot off of the chalkier pitching, and I'd like to say that I have Baltimore as like on the fringe of the playable pivots as far as hitting goes.
Yeah, I actually have them a little bit higher. Everything else that you said, I agree with. I definitely like Kramer as an option off of some of the more chalky plays, but it's not. I don't feel it's a must play. I mean, when you look at the run total, they're giving no respect to the White Sox, and Kramer I think is good enough here to totally use if the weather's. It's just a little. It looks like there's. They said small potential for a delay. I'm not too worried about it. But mostly, I think it's the Orioles bats that I'm interested in. They're expensive. They're going to be overlooked a little bit on this kind of a slate, and I think they're a really, really, really good turn off some of the other ones. So I actually have them very highly rated at the moment. So, what do you have next? Washington.
I have Washington Toronto next.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll just start with this one too. I have Toronto rated as a pretty decent kind of, again, a pivot type stack here, but I don't really like to attack Mackenzie Gore for some reason. So I don't know if I'm going to get to that. And I'm not getting to Gore pitching wise, but I'll tell you, you're more the Berrios whisperer than I am. As difficult as it is, not difficult, whatever. It's kind of annoying as it is to play pitchers against Washington. Again, just as something to do other than say a Kirby. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that that Berrios just falls in the line of those kind of GPP type plays that are just going to be a little lower owned that just have a shot. I mean, again, it's kind of tough to get ceiling against Washington nowadays. But if Kirby, and I hate to skip ahead, but if Kirby fails, you're going to want something. So I think Berrios is perfectly reasonable. So I think Toronto is possible, and I think Berrios is completely reasonable here.
Yeah, I like Berrios a little bit here. Again, just like you said, basically, I don't have a whole lot of different takes with this one, except for I don't think I would get to Toronto, even though I think there's certainly a case just because of the size of the slate, and that I think Gore is decent enough. The problem is that they're also probably going to start limiting Gore a little bit, which means you get you get more bullpen innings, which is bad for the team you're stacking, but it's also better because it's a bad bullpen. So there's a lot of ways you could take a look at it, but I don't think that I'm going to get to Toronto personally. I just think Baltimore is I'd much prefer as a pivot stack.
You start out with something like Berrios and Kremer. I mean, you're already.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already are missing probably the three best options, but you're already now in a situation where you can play like other chalky stuff, I think.
Yeah. And we had in chat Jolly saying let's go DMV teams. I have zero interest in playing Washington. There's no way they would ever rate for me today, personally. But I know you like the DMV team, so if you want to do it, go ahead. I just don't see any reason to try to attack Berrios.
Baltimore Washington 4-4. All right.
It's hard for me to get to the Washington part, but I definitely can get with the Baltimore side.
Okay.
All right. So what do we got? You have the Mets next or the Red Sox?
No, I have Red Sox Houston next.
Okay. Oh yeah, you start this one. I guess it's going good with you starting. Why don't you roll it?
It's fine. I am not getting to any of the pitching here. This is kind of a rematch actually from when I took they played this game a few early slates ago, and Boston scored I think 20 runs or something.
Right.
Something like that, and France just got lit up. So I'm not going to take Boston today. That was in Houston actually, I think.
It was. Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that today. I think France is going to come out and have a better game. I'm not going to play them, but I'm not going to play Boston. Excuse me, I'm not going to play Houston. I'm not going to play Boston. That's right. And the other side, Bello is just good enough to keep the ball on the ground, I think, and keep Houston off the board. So I'm probably going to be. I don't want to say ignoring it. I guess both hitting environments have to be sort of in play here, but I'm going to change my mind. I am going to put them both in play. They're not like priorities or anything, but again, when I keep forgetting that when you have a really really chalky option like Atlanta, you have to have a little more flexibility with your other.
Yeah.
So I'll put both those in play again. And listen, although Bello again keep the ball on the ground. I'll tell you, I had Bello in that spot as well. Now, again, he had a huge lead. So, maybe you're not quite as tight, but he wasn't that great in that game, if you want to know the truth, against Houston.
Yeah, even though he went the 7 innings, he just doesn't get the strikeouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I think that these are going to stand out as offenses. There's a 10.5 run total, both teams with over a 5-run projection. I don't really love either side, to be honest with you. I totally get if anybody wants to do it. I'm not going to talk you out of it. And if I was playing, 150, if I was playing 20 even today, probably, I probably would have a stack of each of these teams. I don't know if I would have a lot. They're just not a priority quite for me. But I do think the environment, just being in Boston and it's 90% humidity today, the ball should be able to fly. I have no problem with doing it. I just don't particularly love attacking either of these pitchers. Especially with France coming off of his worst start ever against this same team. So I will pass. And then we get to have start us off with the interesting Andrew Heaney conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same. Listen, it's sort of the same conversation every time. then you always have to kind of consider him. But I mean, I brought this up last time that his strikeout rate is just a little bit worse this year, and boy, it's going to be rough to play him off of 3 straight kind of pretty miserable. I won't say miserable, whatever, but three straight pretty bad performances here. Now again, the Mets are usually a team that can, when they get frustrated, you can just kind of roll over them. So I'm going to have to play some of it. I'm just going to have to. But it doesn't come without any fear. And the other side of this, I mean, if you really want to just kind of hold your nose, whatever, there's going to be like an extremely popular 6K guy later, and maybe another kind of cheapo. If you want to take a shot at Quintana in like an impossible matchup, I've probably made worse plays. Maybe I haven't. I don't know.
That's okay. Sure. No, it's good.
I mean, Texas is a rough team to say, well, I'll take my 15 points and go home, because you could have negative 15 before you know it.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, he's going to be in my pool. If I get to him, I get to him, and it's probably going to end up not working. But I think that Heaney is a GPP play pretty much every slate, even though the strikeout rate does concern me.
I actually think that Heaney is the best tournament play on the slate. There's nobody with more upside you're going to find. You're like, I like Kremer to be a guy who can go out and get 20 or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe get 24. Heaney is a guy who could put up 30 plus, and he's 7,200, and it's the Mets. And again, only a 3.9 run total projection for them. This is a spot where I feel like 2 weeks ago he would have been the chalk. And you know me, I love those spots. I love when the perception because of a bad start or two is going to change things. I'll jump right on it, and I'll embrace the variance and absolutely play Heaney. I have no problem with it. And the one thing people have said things about his strikeout rate. It's I don't know what the hell people are talking about, because
just hallucinating. I guess.
I mean, he's coming off like over the last 2 months. It's just not quite what it used to be, but it's still about 10 per 9. I mean, it's still really solid. He's got the double-digit upside for strikeouts every day. So I don't know. I'm in on it. Sorry about the noise in the background. All right. So moving on to Cleveland, Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not getting a better projection.
You guys, we both got the same sandwich.
On both the pitchers in this game. Let me just kind of see what's up here. I don't know what the weather is or whatever, but I was expecting it to be a little bit more on Gavin Williams if you want to look at it. So maybe I'll force him in. I don't know. Pablo Lopez at 10-8. I think considering what you need to do, what you need to accomplish on the plate, I don't think I want to pay 10-8 for him.
Yeah.
What I am getting is once again, same thing. I'm getting the value on the Cleveland stuff, and that was looking pretty tasty for a while there. If you want to know the truth, they ended up.
Yeah, it got off to a good start for you there.
Yeah, so I'll probably end up taking another look at the Gavin Williams. I might force him in if you want to know the truth. I mean, just because I'm trying to get a little different here. And if he's going to project poorly, he's also going to be low owned, and
he'll be unowned completely.
Pretty good freaking. I mean, he can get some strikeouts. I don't know. So I kind of like that.
Yeah. I think it's probably a little bit too much for me to pay for him, because you're basically talking like about a similar to Heaney play to me, and I would just much rather play Heaney with the upside and the leash. The leash should throw 100 pitches, which may only be 3 innings for Heaney because that's what he does. But I definitely think if I was again multi-entering scripting, I would absolutely have a little bit of Gavin Williams. It's just not a priority for me. And no interest in Lopez against Cleveland, even though I expect him to have a good game and put up 20 plus fantasy points, and that'll be fine fading him at 10-8 with that. All right, you want to go San Diego, St. Louis now?
Yeah, I don't really have too much of this. I'm not getting really to either of the stacks, and I'm not getting to either of the pitchers. Even though I'm looking for kind of some pivots and stuff like that, I'm probably off of this game.
Pretty much same thing for me. If anybody wanted to take a shot with Zach Thompson, against Zach Thompson, he's actually been pretty good. Luco's been really good lately, but I just don't think I'm quite getting there. I'm actually curious if there's any ownership on him, though.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But he's not that different of a play than Kremer. And it's funny because we look at this Cardinal lineup and like I feel like people like it always feels like scarier to me. And then I think about it in reality, they're just terrible. Like maybe it's not the worst thing to play in the world to leave Lugo into your pool, but again, talking about a guy you maybe have 5% of at most or something like that. All right. Milwaukee and Chicago. This is an interesting.
What's the wind like here?
13 miles an hour blowing in from left. The total is 6.5.
Okay, so someone is then going to have to explain to me why I'm not getting better projections out of these pitchers. I'm just going to have to later.
And I'm just going to tell you they're going to change. Yeah, I think they are. That's my guess.
I think both of them. I think both of them have to be considered.
Yep.
And I currently have Steele listed as a good play. I'm not getting a Burns for some reason, which is kind of ridiculous. So you tell me the wind is blowing in, and you get either of these pitchers. They're both going to have to be in play. Their projections are going to change. They just have to.
Yep.
And that's where I am, and definitely not messing with the hitting in that environment.
Absolutely. No way of hitting for me. And both pitchers would be at the top of my list, basically, or right near the top of my list. I think that I prefer Steele slightly, and it's kind of for a funny reason. I mean, again, you have a lefty pitching, hard to get the ball hard to get the ball up very high when you're the 13 miles an hour at Wrigley blowing against you. So, and he'll be facing a bunch of righties. So I am a little higher on Steele than Burns, but I have zero issue with either of them. And I probably would consider both of them. I wouldn't play them in the same. Again, I'm not that guy. I don't like doing it. Those 4 points do matter enough on giant slates. But I think that these two guys will be right at the top of my list by the end of the day.
I mean, I don't know what they did to Cole Reagans in his last trip down to AAA, but
something happened.
But something, and you talk about this all the time. When people say these guys just quote unquote suck, you know what I mean? Like these guys are just like they're younger. I don't know how old this guy is, but he's not 40. Stuff they figure stuff out and listen. They sent him down whenever it was in July, whatever it is. They called him up August 2nd, and the guy nobody's hit off him since. I mean, like he strike out everybody, literally everybody. And you look at this. I mean, look at his strikeouts like before he got sent down, even though he wasn't pitching that many innings.
No, he had like none. Yeah.
But I mean, what is this? Well, what this is 65% ownership at the 555 is what this is.
It's going to be high owned for sure.
Yeah. So, you can't play him with the Braves and expect to get away with it. I guess you have to ask, do you have to? Not do you have to, but should you play some Pittsburgh stacks just for funsies? I don't know if you have to do that either. But it's kind of hard to ignore the $6K price tag of a guy who's pitching like a $9K pitcher. I don't know what else to say. So he looks like a good play. And then on the other side, I do have KC, big surprise, listed as good value, one of the top values on the slate. Actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I definitely, I actually am. I don't know, when KC starts to get like not even expensive, just if I play them, I want to play Witt, and he's now 6,500, and there's just other guys in the 7K range, which is weird to say for hitters that I'd like to play. But I get some of the value plays. Like I'm okay with pieces from KC. I don't think I really want to stack them. For what it's worth, it is 83 degrees, nice hitting weather, but it is blowing in 8 miles an hour from left field, and it's the same thing with KC every day. For some reason, it feels like KC is always facing a terrible pitcher, and we're always like talking about them for value. So same story as always. You can use them to fit in around your Atlantas and stuff, and they'll probably make a lot of sense. And Cole Reagans is got to be one of the top plays on the slate, especially if you want to play the Atlanta or any of these high power offenses that are really, really expensive. I just can't. Even if the thing with Reagans and he has a terrible outing, like I really agree that he's going to be crazy high owned. And if he's not, I mean, it's the kind of situation where I would consider
he doesn't even worry about it. He's just going to be. I mean, he's just.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, the only way he couldn't be. I mean, there's no way. I mean. Okay. Atlanta, Colorado. Once again, you have Atlanta in Colorado, and you're going to project through the roof, and for good reason. And this is going to be why these paying up for these pitchers can be somewhat dicey. I mean, you probably want to get some exposure to this. But like you said, you can't. I don't think you can play Reagans with full Atlanta stacks. I think you put yourself in a position to require too much perfection. So that's that. I'm not going to play Charlie Morton. You always got to think about it. You know what I mean? We have a decent pitcher in Colorado just because you know it's going to be low owned. I'm not getting to that. I'll let you try to either talk me into it or out of it. But for me, I mean, listen, it's play Atlanta. If you could stomach the ownership, or if you could just create your lineups where you don't eat the chalk. Like if instead of playing, say, Reagans, and we'll get to Kirby and Cobb in a minute. But if you want to play something like, I don't know, you want to play Heaney and Quintana or something like that, then you can go ahead and play Atlanta, I suppose. But listen, they are the best. They are the best stack on the slate, and they're going to be the best stack on the slate for the rest of the season.
Right. Yeah, it's just one of those situations where I honestly don't know what else. Like it's the same. We're gonna have this conversation, especially every day, and especially when they're in Colorado, they're gonna be owned somehow. They're gonna be owned. What I was thinking is, I actually think that playing them with Morton makes a lot of sense. And I think, I mean, look, I don't know if anybody's been watching, but Morton's been his last two starts, he's been the best pitcher in baseball, basically. He put up 35 and 38. I would take a shot with Morton here. I don't know if it's the right slate to do it, but if you want to try and get different at pitching because you want to play Atlanta, something like a Morton Heaney at both sub 10% owned pitchers or currently projected to be sub 10%, I'll take that shot. Like, I think that makes perfect sense to me. And I don't know where everybody on Atlanta is going to be on as usual. Rosario and Rosario and Arcia will be the lowest owned of the bunch, I would think. But the problem is they're actually a significant amount cheaper. So other than Acuna, I don't really know where the ownership's going to fall. I think people are going to play Albies because they feel like it's too much cheaper. I would, my favorites would be Acuna, probably then Olsen, then pretty standard, I guess. But I would try to spend a little bit more. Although there's a good stolen base matchup for Albies too. It's just a lot to pay for stolen bases. Anyway, I obviously like Atlanta, and I do like Morton if you're going to try to get a little bit, different to play Atlanta. All right, so let's jump into the other chalky guy of the night.
Yep. So George Kirby rates to be the top spend up on the slate, and some pairing of Kirby and Reagans. We'll get to Cobb in a second, but Kirby and Reagans is going to be the cash game, I imagine. Chalky lineup, I guess, chalky pairings, and then Seattle just once again. Just put up numbers. They put up runs, and they're in play again. So all this, the Seattle guys doesn't seem to be. It's not going to be particularly earth-shattering of a take. I imagine other people are going to play them. Now they are starting to price these guys up at least a little bit. But not really. I don't know. So I don't know. Back to Seattle righties and same guys as last night, I suppose. And maybe get Raleigh in the game this time. So who knows?
He'll be in there tonight.
But all the Seattles and pair them with Kirby, and that's okay. So if I were teaching like someone how to play GPPs without and not let them go too crazy, I would say, play Kirby and stack Seattle. Don't worry about the Braves. Hope they don't get there. And I think Seattle's a very reasonable, maybe not 2% owned, but they're going to be owned. But they're a very legitimate, very reasonable pivot off of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that I'm definitely okay with Seattle. Again, like you said, they kind of priced them they're in a sort of a middle tier. They're not like you can play them. It'd be hard to play them even with Atlanta. It wasn't like these guys were like all in the 3Ks not long ago. I'm stuck on them a little bit. I guess they're fine for me. And Kirby, I think at this ownership might it's such a good spot. They've got a 2.5 run total in Oakland. If I feel like I want to get really different with a different guy, but maybe I play him. But it's not like he's not a general ceiling type of pitcher. Even though I love Kirby actually personally, I think he's a really good real life pitcher. It's really hard. He'll have the occasional, 10 strikeout game, which it's pretty rare. He's a guy you expect to get 20-ish around. And I just feel like if that happens at that ownership, I'd rather just try and play somebody cheaper. Or I'd rather play for the ceiling guys like Steele or Burns. So I have Kirby actually rated below those two right now. Even though I expect him to have a better, maybe median outcome, I just don't think the ceiling is the same.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So for me again, like these, based on my projections now, I have Kirby rated like better than those two. But I'm telling you, something is wrong with the early projection on the Milwaukee Chicago game. It's just really not factoring the win at all, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it'll adjust as the day goes on. I think we'll see those guys a lot more popular. Maybe not somewhat because Kirby's in such a good spot in the A's. And we got Rich B saying in here that he says Quintana's a lock. That's probably the worst phrase I've ever heard. Quintana on a 12-game slate should never, ever, ever, ever be a lock.
And no one facing Texas should ever be a lock.
Yeah, and also a guy who never strikes anyone out should never be a lock. Like, I mean, he literally can pitch a great game and end up with like 16 fantasy points. Like, and if you want that, that's okay. But there's other guys who actually have ceilings. And if people are like, if you play Quintana and you don't want to play Heaney, then there's something wrong with your DFS brain. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether Heaney has got high variance because Quintana has maybe lower variance, but he's no upside at all. I would rather just always play the guys with upside. I would not try to get 15 points on this kind of a slate. There are going to be some guys who put up monster games tonight at the high end, and I think in the mid tier as well. So that's just my take.
So I got something here at least. Okay, so Cincinnati and San Francisco. The other kind of chalky cheapo is Alex Cobb, and okay, I'll just take a stand against this one. This guy's not for me. it's the best I can analyze this. And as a matter of fact, I'll take a shot at Cincinnati just for fun. You know, if that's what people are going to do, if people are really going to do this Reagan's Cobb business, I'll take a shot at some Cincinnati's. Alex Cobb has never impressed me, and you know more about Alex Cobb than anybody, so you could tell me a little bit about this. So I'm really not interested. And yet, on the other side, I don't mind some San Francisco. Again, just as something to do. So for me, I will take some San Francisco. I will take some Cincinnati. I will probably, either force. There's no way I'm playing Cobb in my big buy. I'll promise you that. Question of how much I want to force him out of my AMMs.
Yeah, so I get the Cobb price is. I get why it would be tempting for some people. I honestly like Cobb, and I actually think he's because of his injuries and stuff in the past. I think he's gotten kind of a raw deal, like just with his career. And I think he's actually a very, very good pitcher. But he's not. He's another one without that same kind of massive upside. He's going to be, as you mentioned. Let me just see where he's going to be owned actually. I actually thought that he was maybe going to be he's going to be pretty up there. Yeah, I think your argument makes perfect sense. I still expect him to have a decent game. I may be at this game, by the way. I'm still debating that one.
Oh wow!
Because it's right there, and that's thinking about just jumping over the stadium. We talked about it a little bit last night. So, I'm okay with I'm okay with the Cobb thing if you're different with your hitting, but I wouldn't be trying I would be trying to avoid plays like this, or at least be significantly below the field when you get a guy who hasn't had a good game in like a month and a half to, at 30% ownership on a 12-game slate against an offense that's better than people think. Although they are on the road. Anyway, I'm probably not for me. And I get it with the San Francisco thing. I just want to point out that maybe that's the pivot. Maybe that's another pivot. Like Brandon Williamson has been really, really good. And I don't know why no one's really noticing it. And it's not just a few starts. Like he's going back, he had one really bad start and then, had some terrible starts at the beginning of the year. But also remember, this is a huge stadium upgrade for these guys. It's not that crazy. Like the fact that Cobb's going to be 30% and Brandon Williamson will be 1%. And Brandon Williamson's goes out and puts up 20, 15, 20, 30 every week, every game. Maybe that's an idea you could do. So I would actually include Brandon Williamson and certainly in multi-entry stuff.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm gonna probably try to go live tonight at 11.
Yeah. Oh, you are. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I can make that one.
So there's another thing that I have going on. I forgot to make this announcement. They've been running these tennis King of the Baseline qualifiers for like 6 months, and I picked up like 3 seats, and they're finally playing it. So they got the 100 qualifiers, and they're playing round 1 tomorrow. So
beautiful.
Yeah, the top 50 advance, and then the next round I think goes to maybe the top 20, and then to the top whatever. It's like 100,000 for first at the end. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So and I got actually do have 3 entries in that thing. So what I'll probably do is when I go live, I don't know if anybody's be interested in this, but I'll probably talk through, during the off time with because there's no golf this week, right? So
yeah,
I'm going to talk through kind of my lineup construction for that. Be something
right.
Something to do. So I'm going to post. I'll post in the thing that I'm going to go live tonight and whatever. So with that said, let me start with this last game. All right. So let me see what Clayton Kershaw's pitch count has been. Well, I don't know what happened in his last game.
He got hurt.
Oh, he got hurt. Okay, what happened to him?
I believe. I don't know. I think that's what happened.
No, it was suspended due to rain.
Oh, right. That was the. Never mind. Yes, that's right. That was the rain game.
Okay. So we can only speculate as to what his pitch count was going to be. I'd have to imagine it was going to be more than 70.
Maybe.
Maybe not. I guess. And I don't think I want to play him at 10-2. I'll let you kind of talk to me about that. On the other side, I'm not going to play Merrill Kelly coming off of that performance, as I always do not do. And as a matter of fact, I mean, listen, just something to do. When you're trying to do something else, that's kind of poetic.
Yeah.
Coming off of a ceiling performance like that against a team that we played against Merrill Kelly like on many occasions, they have like an incredible sample size of pitches to look for. I'm going to take a shot. I think I'm going to take a shot at some Dodgers. It's just going to be an impossible thing to do, considering that Merrill Kelly was just freaking lights out. And I imagine the Dodgers. I'm looking at my projections; they don't even rate as like top 10, 15, or anything. So no one's going to play him. I'm afraid to even look at what the prices are, but I'll take a shot a little bit. So that's where I'm at this game. I don't know if I'll play my big buy-in or whatever, but I'll definitely get some exposure. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll play him. Maybe not. The big one. Ooh, you know what they have? They have the immaculate inning tonight. They have the 111.
Yeah, this is worth the shot in that. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm going to probably play 5 in that one, and I'm definitely playing 1 of this one. So that's I'm in there.
Same page, 100%.
Let's go. Okay.
I am just for what it's worth. The Dodgers absolutely crushed Merrill Kelly. Like, this is not like whatever people think about it. And look, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight. He's had some good games against them in the past. But as a team, you would think that they have a Hall of Fame numbers out of them. They've what do they hit? They've got an 11% walk rate. They have a 380 on base percentage. They're hitting 310 off of them. Solid power numbers, not ideal, but like it's really, and this team is loaded. I think this is a really good chance. Spot to take a chance on them. Excuse me, spot to take a chance on them.
How expensive these guys? Oh my god! So that's 68. Freeman 66.
That should be like 9K. It's getting ridiculous.
We're definitely playing out. I mean, that's like for sure.
Right. I'm just going to point out though that Mookie Betts is the hottest man on the planet. Right? I know that we had a huge game last night from what's his name, and Mookie actually finally had an offer to break his hitting streak up. But Mookie Betts is hitting 470 this month. For August, he's going to end up over 450 in August. He's hitting 700, or he was hitting 700. Last week he hit 700. And he just steals bases every time he's on right now because he's gunning for the MVP. So I really, really like the idea of the Dodgers to get different. I am not going to get to Kershaw personally. I just like the guys in the Chicago-Milwaukee situation. And then obviously, if you want the chalky one, Kirby, it makes some sense, but I would probably even go with the other guys ahead of him. I really like the Orioles on this slate. I know we started off with them. I think the Orioles and Dodgers are my favorite, really, like, that are going to be very low on stacks.
Let's go.
And then mix in a little bit of the, I would mix in some of the Braves because it's just too good of a spot. Like, but maybe use them as your secondary, find a little bit of a cheaper way to play. It'd be hard to do with Baltimore unless you pay down to pitching.
Seattle, baby, just ramp it up. Just throw it.
No, and I like Seattle as well. I also think that some of the cheap Royals, probably not a full stack for me, but as a complimentary, they're another team that shows up. But for pitching, I like. I do like the Reagans, even though it's going to be fairly chalky. That's one I would take more of a shot with because I think he could actually put up a number that you might need. But Steele and Burns at the top. A little bit of Morton would be a way to get different if I was going to play some Atlanta, and also it sort of correlates a little bit. But probably going to play the Dodgers and keep it the Dodgers and Orioles as my favorite two stacks.
And Peralta, Hayward. I wonder what kind of bullpens does Arizona have? Like,
it was really good for a while, and it's been struggling the second half of the year. But it's not like you're going to have to. I mean, Merrill Kelly's going to throw 100 pitches no matter what, pretty much. Like,
right.
Even when he gets rocked, he usually does that, unless they get to him all in the first, which can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad. But he usually does throw, unless literally he scores 7 in the first 2 innings or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, that's my sort of sum up. I really do like.
How do you like this? How do you like a Seattle Dodger stack with Heaney and Reagans? How about that? There you go.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
That's the Ping Leori play. That's it. That's the.
I like it. There's the Ping Leori. That's right. And if I do get to the game, I'm going to just do my normal. Hey, I have to stack the Giants somewhere thing. I have to stack the game I'm going to, so I might play the Giants a little bit, even though I did speak somewhat.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. And I'm going to do my best. I plan on being here at 6, but again, sometimes it can be a little choppier. We're running really good internet-wise this morning, but we'll see what it's like later. But my plan is to be here at 6, and I will post my builds in the Discord chat.
And I'll be there at 11 as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck, everybody, and Sheets, have a good day. We'll see you in a few hours.
Yeah. So I will. I'll post this up on the site.